The idea that a single behavior can dramatically impact longevity may sound like an overstatement, but mounting scientific evidence is beginning to confirm what many have long suspected. The key to a longer, more vibrant life after 60 may not lie in supplements, diets, or even genetics. It may actually lie in something far more human and deeply rooted in our evolutionary biology. For seniors, especially grandparents, one particular action has been repeatedly associated with profound physical and mental health benefits: a stronger immune system, reduced risk of dementia and cardiovascular disease, and even up to 10 extra years of life. What is this powerful behavior? It's the act of regularly caring for others, most notably grandchildren or anyone in their circle of love and trust. This seemingly simple, often overlooked lifestyle choice has been the focus of numerous longitudinal studies, and the results are stunning. Grandparents who engage in caregiving or meaningful involvement with their grandchildren not only report higher levels of satisfaction and purpose, but also live significantly longer than their peers who remain isolated or disengaged. This isn't merely a correlation, but is supported by a range of biological and psychological mechanisms. When a grandparent engages with a child, their brain lights up in areas associated with empathy, reward, and social bonding, releasing feel-good neurochemicals like oxytocin and dopamine, which counteract the stress hormone cortisol. Over time, lower chronic stress translates into reduced systemic inflammation, better heart health, improved sleep, and even a more responsive immune system. Additionally, the act of helping and caring for others has been found to lower blood pressure, improve insulin regulation, and reduce symptoms of depression and anxiety. This suggests that the lifestyle of caregiving isn't just emotionally fulfilling, it's physiologically protective. But it doesn't have to be full-time parenting or stressful responsibilities. Even small, consistent actions such as reading a book with a grandchild, preparing a meal, walking them to school, or simply being emotionally available creates a rhythm of engagement that nurtures both bodies and minds. Moreover, the power of this connection goes beyond the individual. Grandparents who are actively involved with their families often model resilience, empathy, and purpose for younger generations, reinforcing a cycle of emotional health and continuity. It provides them with an identity, a role that carries deep personal meaning, and this sense of purpose has been proven to be one of the most powerful predictors of longevity in older adults. In fact, researchers studying communities with unusually high life expectancies, such as those in Okinawa, Japan, or Sardinia, Italy, have consistently found that elder involvement in family and community life plays a central role in their continued vitality. These elders are not shuffled aside or treated as burdens. They are integrated, honored, and expected to contribute meaningfully. This dynamic isn't just good for the soul, it's good for the heart, brain, and body. The impact is even measurable at the cellular level. Telomeres, the protective caps on the ends of chromosomes that shorten with age, have been found to deteriorate more slowly in older adults who report strong social ties and a sense of usefulness. Caring for others, it seems, helps preserve the biological fabric of life itself. But it's not only about family. Seniors who volunteer, mentor, or participate in social or community groups experience similar benefits. A study published in Evolution and Human Behavior found that older adults who helped others, whether through informal babysitting or formal volunteering, were less likely to die over a 5-year period than those who didn't, even when factors like age, physical health, and socioeconomic status were taken into account. This finding reinforces the idea that humans are wired to help, to nurture, and to connect, especially as we age. And when we act in line with that wiring, the results ripple through every system of the body. Sadly, our modern society often overlooks this wisdom. Many seniors are left feeling useless or forgotten, especially after retirement, when work no longer defines their daily structure or worth. But the science is clear. Seniors, and especially grandparents, who stay engaged in caring roles, no matter how small, are rewarded not just with smiles and gratitude, but with real, tangible health benefits. Their brains stay sharper, their moods stay brighter, and their bodies resist the chronic illnesses that plague so many in later years. Even more compelling is the growing body of brain imaging studies that show how emotional and social engagement strengthens neural connections, particularly in areas affected by Alzheimer's disease. In fact, some neuroscientists now believe that emotional neglect and lack of social stimulation in old age can accelerate cognitive decline, while consistent emotional involvement acts like mental exercise, keeping the brain agile and responsive. So, when a grandparent picks up a crayon to draw with a toddler, or helps with homework, or simply listens with patience and love, they're not just creating memories. They are actively building a longer, healthier future for themselves. And this understanding leads us to a broader question. If caring for others is so powerful, how can we make sure every senior has the opportunity to do it? Because this isn't just a personal issue, it's a societal one. How we treat our elders and whether we integrate them meaningfully into family and community life may actually shape public health outcomes on a national scale. Encouraging intergenerational relationships and making space for seniors to contribute is not a luxury. It's a necessity for a thriving, healthy population. In a world that often promotes independence at the expense of connection, the science is showing us the opposite, that our deepest, most human instinct to care and be cared for may be the key to a long and fulfilling life. What makes this phenomenon even more fascinating is how deeply embedded it is in our evolutionary history, suggesting that the longevity benefits grandparents gain from caring for others are not just coincidental, but are actually part of our species' biological survival strategy. Anthropologists studying hunter-gatherer societies, such as the Hadza of Tanzania and the Tsimane people of Bolivia, have observed a consistent pattern where post-reproductive adults, particularly grandmothers, contribute significantly to the care, education, and well-being of the younger generations. These elders play crucial roles not just socially, but nutritionally, emotionally, and even economically, ensuring the survival and stability of their tribes. This so-called grandmother hypothesis, supported by a range of evolutionary biologists and anthropologists, posits that humans evolved longer post-reproductive lifespans precisely because of the life-extending and survival-enhancing roles that elders provide to their kin. In essence, nature rewards older adults who remain engaged with family and community by granting them more years, not out of charity, but because their ongoing contributions increase the survival odds of their genetic legacy. Translating this to modern society, the implications are profound. When seniors are given meaningful roles, whether through childcare, storytelling, emotional support, wisdom sharing, or simply being available, their bodies respond by activating biological systems that reinforce health, resilience, and cognitive vitality. For example, MRI scans have shown that seniors who regularly interact with children or provide emotional care have increased activity in the prefrontal cortex, the area responsible for decision-making, empathy, and emotional regulation. This keeps the brain flexible, responsive, and less prone to atrophy. Cardiovascular studies have shown that engaged grandparents tend to have more stable heart rates and lower blood pressure than those who live in social isolation, likely due to the daily sense of purpose and connection they experience. The hormone oxytocin, which floods the system during positive social interactions, is not just the love hormone. It is also a potent anti-inflammatory agent, capable of reducing oxidative stress and lowering the burden of chronic disease. Meanwhile, cortisol, the stress hormone that contributes to everything from insulin resistance to memory loss, is significantly reduced in seniors who report close family relationships or caregiving roles. All of these effects combine in a way that no pill or procedure can replicate, through a natural, sustainable, and deeply fulfilling lifestyle of connection. But this raises a critical issue. What happens to seniors who don't have grandchildren nearby or who feel isolated from family? The good news is that the benefits of caring don't require biological kinship. The human brain doesn't distinguish between helping a grandchild, a neighbor's child, or even a beloved pet. What matters is the act of being needed and the opportunity to engage in consistent, nurturing relationships. Seniors who volunteer at schools, participate in reading programs, or offer time at community centers report similar health gains to those who are traditional grandparents. In fact, a large-scale study from the Berlin Aging Study found that seniors who provided informal caregiving, even outside their family, had a 37% lower mortality risk over a 7-year period. That's nearly the same as the longevity gains seen in people who quit smoking or adopt regular physical exercise. Clearly, the act of caregiving doesn't just improve someone else's life. It rejuvenates the giver in a way that is physiological and measurable. This brings us to another layer of importance: mental health. Seniors who report a lack of purpose or emotional connection are significantly more likely to suffer from depression, anxiety, and even cognitive decline. But those who wake up each day knowing that someone is counting on them, even for a small gesture or routine, show markedly lower rates of depression and sharper memory retention. This may be because acts of care create a feedback loop of serotonin and dopamine release in the brain, reinforcing motivation, pleasure, and focus. Over time, these chemical patterns reshape the brain, building resilience against age-related mental health challenges. This is why some geriatricians now recommend relationship therapy as part of a wellness plan for seniors, encouraging them to find opportunities for caregiving, companionship, and emotional reciprocity. And the benefits aren't just psychological. Immune system markers such as NK, natural killer, cell activity, which helps fight infections and cancer, are higher in seniors with active social and caregiving roles. These biological advantages are particularly important in aging populations where vulnerability to disease increases with every passing year. But the story doesn't end with health. It extends to life satisfaction. Surveys consistently show that older adults who care for others, even in small daily ways, score higher in happiness, life meaning, and sense of identity than their more isolated peers. This is a powerful finding in a world that often associates old age with decline or disengagement. Instead, what we're learning is that the more seniors are invited into meaningful participation, whether through family or community, the more likely they are to experience a kind of emotional and physical renaissance in later life. They become more active, more hopeful, and more grounded in a purpose beyond themselves. These feelings, in turn, motivate healthier choices, more movement, better eating habits, increased sleep quality, and a stronger resistance to addictive behaviors or sedentary lifestyles. So the next time a grandparent is given a chance to watch a child, help with homework, cook a meal, or share a story, it's not just a routine activity. It's a form of medicine, a dose of connection that the body registers in real time. This is why researchers and physicians alike are beginning to rethink the way we structure retirement, elder care, and family systems. If one of the most powerful determinants of long life and well-being is social contribution, then creating space for older adults to give, connect, and be valued should be a public health priority, not an afterthought. This growing body of evidence showing that grandparents who actively contribute to their families or communities live significantly longer challenges one of the most persistent myths in modern culture: that aging is a time to withdraw, rest, and step away from responsibility. While rest and relaxation are essential, disengagement has been shown to accelerate physical and cognitive decline in older adults, not prevent it. In fact, studies from institutions like Harvard Medical School and the National Institute on Aging emphasize that the sharpest, healthiest seniors are often the ones with consistent routines, active roles, and interpersonal connections that require mental focus and emotional investment. What's remarkable is how deeply the benefits of caregiving permeate every system in the body. Seniors who help raise grandchildren or who mentor youth often show better mobility and muscle tone, not because they engage in intense workouts, but because caregiving keeps them physically active throughout the day, standing, walking, bending, reaching, and simply moving more frequently. These daily movements stimulate circulation, reduce joint stiffness, and help regulate blood sugar and insulin sensitivity. Even small tasks like preparing meals for a child or helping with school projects create consistent, functional exercise that maintains balance, core strength, and coordination. Factors that significantly reduce fall risk, which is one of the most serious dangers for older adults. On the hormonal level, caregiving roles prompt the release of endorphins and dopamine, which act not just as mood enhancers, but as natural painkillers, reducing the perception of chronic pain and improving tolerance for physical strain. Simultaneously, brain-derived neurotrophic factor, BDNF, a protein essential for long-term memory and learning, has been found at higher levels in seniors who regularly engage in caregiving or mentorship activities. This protein helps protect neurons from age-related degeneration and encourages the formation of new neural pathways, keeping the mind agile and responsive even into the 80s or 90s. Moreover, the psychological dimension of caregiving is perhaps its most profound. When seniors feel needed, appreciated, and purposeful, it directly combats the toxic emotional states that often accompany aging, such as loneliness, hopelessness, or a sense of irrelevance. Emotional neglect, or the feeling of being a burden, has been linked with increased mortality rates, greater incidence of stroke and heart disease, and a higher likelihood of developing Alzheimer's disease. But when a grandparent is told, "I couldn't have done it without you," or is asked for advice or support, the message to the brain and body is clear: you matter. This validation has real, biological consequences. It reduces systemic inflammation, balances neurotransmitter levels, and promotes regenerative sleep, which is vital for cellular repair and cognitive processing. In cultures where multi-generational households are common and elders are revered, the average lifespan is often several years longer than in societies that isolate or institutionalize their seniors. Japan, for example, has one of the world's highest concentrations of centenarians, and it's no coincidence that the role of obakin or ojikin, grandmother or grandfather, carries immense cultural weight. Elderly Japanese not only live with their families, but are expected to pass down wisdom, care for children, and participate in daily decisions. Their engagement isn't viewed as optional, it's essential. This belief system is embedded in the country's health outcomes. Okinawa, a region with an unusually high number of people living past 100, emphasizes strong social networks known as moai, where elders are included, respected, and interdependent. These networks not only serve as a social buffer during hardship, but also provide a consistent source of joy and motivation, both of which are closely tied to better immune function and lower stress hormone levels. In contrast, many Western countries treat aging as a stage of gradual disengagement, where retirement often leads to isolation, redundancy, and emotional stagnation. This cultural script needs rewriting, not just for the sake of seniors' mental well-being, but for their biological longevity. And the good news is, it's never too late to shift this narrative. A senior who starts mentoring a child, volunteering in the community, or even regularly calling family members to offer support begins activating these protective mechanisms almost immediately. Purpose, unlike youth, can be cultivated at any age, and the physiological response is powerful no matter when it begins. This is why geriatric researchers are now exploring purpose-driven medicine, an emerging concept where emotional and social engagement are prescribed just as critically as medications or physical therapy. In controlled trials, seniors who were encouraged to establish routines with meaning, such as helping someone in need, setting learning goals, or engaging in cultural traditions, showed improved cholesterol profiles, reduced blood pressure, and enhanced executive function compared to control groups with less structured days. The implication is clear. Helping others is not just morally uplifting, it is biologically protective. The neurochemical rewards, combined with increased activity and a sense of belonging, create a kind of self-reinforcing loop where the more one gives, the stronger and more balanced they feel. These are not abstract or philosophical benefits. They are tangible, measurable, and increasingly being recognized as vital components of elder care models. Hospitals and senior living facilities that integrate intergenerational programs, where elders mentor students, care for children, or lead cultural activities, report lower hospitalization rates, reduced medication needs, and higher overall satisfaction among residents. Grandparents who view themselves as an essential part of a family ecosystem, rather than a sideline generation, are not just happier. They live longer, sharper, and with less disease burden. And that the message every family, community, and healthcare system needs to embrace wholeheartedly. As science continues to peel back the layers of human longevity, it becomes increasingly clear that the secret to a long, fulfilling life isn't just found in medicine, nutrition, or exercise alone. It's deeply rooted in purpose, connection, and consistent contribution to the lives of others. For grandparents, this means that their role in the family and the community is far more than sentimental. It is biologically transformative. And it's not limited to raising grandchildren or being physically present in a traditional household. In today's digital age, even long-distance involvement, like video calling a grandchild to read a bedtime story, sharing family recipes through messages, mentoring younger generations via online platforms, or organizing family traditions and reunions, has been shown to stimulate the same cognitive and emotional pathways that protect against aging. The human brain doesn't differentiate between digital and physical interaction in the context of emotional connection. The neurochemical response of oxytocin, serotonin, and dopamine is triggered by the experience of bonding and belonging, regardless of the medium. So even grandparents living alone or in assisted living facilities can harness the benefits of connection, as long as they actively engage and are made to feel necessary and appreciated. Even the act of passing down cultural knowledge, life stories, or moral guidance enhances the elder's sense of legacy and relevance, activating the prefrontal cortex and reinforcing long-term memory circuits that protect against age-related cognitive decline. In addition, this generational storytelling stimulates autobiographical memory retrieval, a process that has been found to slow the progression of dementia and promote emotional regulation in seniors, particularly when their stories are received with enthusiasm and gratitude. Families who actively invite grandparents to share wisdom during holidays, involve them in decisions, and ask for guidance in raising children are not just nurturing family bonds. They are literally extending the life and health of their elders. And the ripple effects are just as powerful in reverse. Children raised with involved grandparents tend to have higher resilience, better emotional intelligence, and stronger social skills. Grandparents are often a source of unconditional love, which creates a buffer against stress and trauma in the developing minds of the young. When you look at it from a wider angle, this intergenerational exchange becomes a powerful, life-giving loop. Elders pour into the next generation and, in turn, receive the emotional nutrients that fuel their own vitality. It's no exaggeration to say that the presence of an engaged grandparent can stabilize an entire family system, and in doing so, anchor their own health and longevity. Loneliness, which has been shown to increase the risk of early death by nearly 30%, is essentially neutralized by a consistent sense of being needed and valued. When an older adult feels like they have a reason to wake up, a person to support, and a responsibility to fulfill, even something as simple as walking a grandchild to school or being the family historian, their body responds with increased immune efficiency, better heart health, and stronger cognitive reserve. Even sleep improves, with seniors reporting fewer nighttime awakenings and deeper REM cycles when their days are filled with meaningful activity and emotional connection. Sleep quality, as research confirms, is one of the strongest predictors of longevity. And when combined with reduced cortisol levels and elevated oxytocin from family interactions, it creates an internal environment where healing and restoration thrive. Moreover, the psychological resilience that comes from feeling anchored in family or community purpose acts as a buffer against health crises. Seniors who feel needed are more likely to adhere to medication regimens, follow dietary recommendations, stay active, and seek timely medical care, because they're not just living for themselves, they're living for others who depend on them. This mental shift from passive aging to purposeful contribution is perhaps the single most transformative change an elder can make, and the results are nothing short of life-extending. Doctors across the world are now advocating for social prescriptions, recommending volunteering, community leadership, and family involvement as preventive strategies, just as they would suggest cholesterol-lowering medication or walking routines. Programs that integrate grandparents into school systems, libraries, and youth mentorship programs are cropping up globally, not just because they help the children, but because they're proving to be some of the most effective longevity boosters for the elderly. These roles provide structured purpose, regular social interaction, and a schedule to anticipate, all of which prevent the mental and physical atrophy that often accompanies unstructured retirement. As we reimagine what aging can look like, it's critical that both families and communities shift their mindset from seeing seniors as recipients of care to recognizing them as providers of wisdom, stability, and value. The grandparents who embrace this role, who lean into connection rather than withdraw, who offer their love, experience, and time, whether to their own grandchildren or others, are rewriting the narrative of aging itself. They're not just living longer, they're living stronger, more vibrant, more fulfilled lives. And the best part is, this transformation doesn't require expensive interventions or dramatic changes. It starts with a conversation, a visit, a shared story, or an open invitation to participate in something meaningful. Because science may measure lifespan in years, but love, purpose, and connection measure it in joy. And when those are present, not only do the years stretch longer, but the life within them burns brighter. For every grandparent out there wondering if they still matter, the answer from decades of research and the lives they touch is a resounding yes. You are the heartbeat of the family, the living bridge between generations, and the silent force keeping the flame of legacy and vitality alive. Keep showing up, keep giving, keep loving. It's the most powerful medicine you'll ever take.